Hello and welcome. We'll be getting started here shortly in just about 2 minutes. Thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for coming in today. We'll be getting started shortly here in just about 1 minute. All right. We're- Okay, well, welcome everyone. I know I sound like a broken record when things begin, but I always like to let people know that we'll be getting started shortly. All right, and we are at time now, so I'll get us going this morning. Thank you all for joining us this week for our Learning Libby with the Experts webinar series. We are so excited to be here this week, and we are sad but also happy to be wrapping up with our final piece today, all about magazines in Libby. So we hope you'll find some great final information here to round out. We'll take you through our program and demo as usual on the first half, and then we'll wrap up with plenty of time for Q&A. So if you have any questions from anything we've covered this week, either in getting started and tips and tricks, or from today with magazines, or your own exploration this week with Libby, we are more than happy to get those answered for you. Today is a wonderful day. You get both Marissa and I for this session. You had Marissa almost entirely on Monday. I know I hopped in at the very end. You had me yesterday, and now today we are going to wrap up the week together. So, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, maybe you're already familiar with Overdrive and Libby, just a quick intro. Uh, both Marissa and I are here from Overdrive. We are the makers of the Libby app, or Overdrive is. Marissa and I didn't make Libby. And Overdrive had our original flagship app, Overdrive, for so many years, and we built Libby off of all of those years of feedback we received. Instead of just making edits here and there to the Overdrive app, we wanted to start fresh. So Libby is built with feedback at its core. So we'll even show you at the end today how you can submit feedback your own if there are features you'd like to see in Libby. Just some quick housekeeping items. We do have closed captions enabled. If you need to adjust those at all, look for the button that says CC in your Zoom meeting controls, tap the arrow next to it, and make any needed adjustments. If you've got questions, feel free to ask those throughout the entire webinar. I'll be answering them in the background while Marissa presents. And like I mentioned at the top, we'll have plenty of time at the end to cover anything you'd like to see live from any point in this week. And we'll have Marissa's iPad connected into the session. So you'll be able to see that right in the screen. When we wrap up today, I'll remind you of this as well, but everyone will receive an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes links to everything we've covered this week. So you'll receive a recording of today's session right up at the top, talking about magazines, and then underneath will be links to the recording of our Getting Started and Tips and Tricks session. So if you're joining us for the first time today, you can review those in your own time as early as tomorrow. Also, in that email, we'll include links to our helpful PDFs. So there are 3 different PDFs that include short video clips of everything we have covered this week, from getting started all the way through today with magazines. Let us know your feedback of what you thought of this series. Send that through when we end the webinar. It will pop up in your web browser. Fill that out for us and let us know what you thought. And lastly, when Marissa gets her iPad connected here shortly, Zoom can kind of freak out a little bit. Sometimes it shrinks her display on your screen. Doesn't happen to everyone, but if it happens to you, it only takes a few simple clicks to adjust so you can see her full display again. I'll send those through the chat. If for some reason you don't see that in chat, use Q&A to pose it as a question, and I will provide the steps there as well. And with that, Marissa, I'm going to let you get connected and we will get rolling.
All right, thank you so much, Joe. So as I get connected, I just want to give that reminder about the zoom ratio. So once my screen starts sharing here, you're going to see you should see a navigation bar at the bottom of the screen. It has 5 icons within it: search, library, menu, shelf, and timeline. If you cannot see that navigation bar, then that means Zoom has shrunk your screen. It's a really easy fix. Joe put the instructions in the chat, and it's just a couple of clicks. So it'll get you back on your way and following along with me so much easier here. So today's our final day. We're going to be talking about magazines. Now, for anyone who did attend our Getting Started session, I just want to give a little warning here that for the magazine session, I do go over some of the same type of things that we talk about in the Getting Started session, just in case someone just signed up to come to the magazine session. So we're going to be refreshing on the navigation bar and navigating the app. So just a little heads up there. Now at the bottom of the screen, my navigation bar has those 5 icons within it. I'll be talking about all of these icons throughout the presentation, but we're going to start out with the library icon. It's the second icon within the navigation bar. It looks like a little library building and it says library underneath. So the library icon is what you're going to tap on when you want to browse the library's entire collection of ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. And there's a couple ways to browse for magazines on the library page. Up at the top of the screen here, we have some filters. So if you want to look for popular magazines, you can, of course, jump into this popular filter. Available now is a great place to go because every magazine will fall into the available now filter. The reason that is because magazines are always available. So they do not count against your loan and hold limit, and they never need to be put on a waiting list. Those are 2 things that make magazines special in Libby. So unlike ebooks and audiobooks where you have to wait on a wait list, magazines are going to be available all of the time. And even if you borrow up to your 10 loan or hold limit, then you will have the ability to continue to borrow magazines as well. So those filters up at the top are a great place to go. You can also scroll down just a little bit here to the guides. So guides do differ from library to library. Yours aren't going to look exactly like mine do. But on the 4th square here, you will have the ability to tap into this and look at a magazines guide. Now, what that magazines guide will do is it will break down your magazines by topic. So you'll see a section called cooking magazines. You'll see news and politics, celebrities, things like that. So if you want to see those magazines broken down by topic while you're browsing around, that guide is going to be a great place to go. Lastly, you will have curated collections. These are often ebooks and audiobooks, but I do know that your library has some curated collections specific to magazines, like newly added magazines, for example. And these curated collections are going to rotate throughout the year. So the library might put a collection of cooking magazines around the holidays up. And then later on in the year, they might take those away and share some outdoor magazines for the summer, for example. So if you just want to browse around the library and find a magazine that way, you're more than welcome. Again, that's going to be at the library icon. Now, if you are looking for a specific magazine, then you can go to the search icon instead. It's the very first icon that you see there in the navigation bar. And here you can type in that magazine name. So I'm going to look for the magazine Radio Times. I'll just type in my magazine name here and then tap on search in my device's keyboard. And the magazine has appeared right here at the very front. Now, there's actually a couple magazines showing up in this result. You'll see here we have 2 magazines as well. These are single issues. That's apparent because it's showing us borrow, read sample, and tag. Now, the magazine I was looking for, Radio Times, you can see that this is a full series. So here's the latest issue, and then the second latest issue, third latest issue, fourth latest issue. You'll always see 4 issues show up in the search results or the list. Now, your library does have even older issues of the magazine, not just the latest 4. And if you want to see those, you can tap on the jacket cover. That's going to take you to the details page. And then as we scroll down, all past those details, which they can be kind of long because they outline all of the articles within it, you'll see the series information. So here under the series information, you'll have all of the issues of the magazine that are available at your library. The star here denotes which magazine you're looking at, right, or which issue, I apologize, you are looking at right at that moment. So I'm looking at this issue here. Now I'm going to keep scrolling so I can show you that you will reach the end here, but if you see an arrow, that means there's more issues than what's appearing on the screen. So you just have to tap that arrow and you'll see those additional older issues. Now, if you want to see the details page of one of these older issues, you just have to tap on the jacket cover there. That will take you to the details page of that issue. And then, of course, we can borrow our magazine by tapping this borrow button here on the details page. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'll tap on borrow. On the confirmation page, we can confirm that we want to borrow this magazine again, that big maroon button. And this is important here. You'll see after I tap on borrow, Libby's asking me if I'd like to be notified of new issues being added to the library. So the very first time you borrow a magazine, Libby's going to prompt you to create a Notify Me series tag. You can name it whatever you'd like. I named mine Notify Me Magazine. Makes it really easy for me to remember what it is. And then once you have it created, Libby will ask you every time you borrow a new magazine if you'd like to add it to that Notify Me tag. When you add magazines to your Notify Me tag, Libby will then begin to send you notifications every time a new issue is added to your library. So this can be really convenient if you love Radio Times, but you don't want to keep coming back every month and double checking to see if a new issue has been added. Instead, Libby's going to send you that notification so you don't have to double check. So I'm going to say yes, I want to add this to my Notify Me magazine tag. So all I have to do is tap on that tag there. And Libby's going to give us a little confirmation message. So she's saying it worked And if I ever want to remove it from the tag, I can do that from my shelf. So I'm going to tap on done. And then I can see this magazine's taking a second here to download. Magazines are image heavy, and images take a little longer to download than words do. So I'm not going to waste our time sitting here and waiting for this to download here. I've already downloaded a magazine to my shelf. So I'm going to pop over to my shelf here. And I'm going to open up this issue of Good Housekeeping. All right. So when you first open a magazine, you're going to have menus up at the top and the bottom of the screen. Just like in our ebooks, we'll see what page number we're on around our little reading bubble here. So I'm on page 1 of 114. And then right below that, you'll see thumbnails of each page within the magazine. Now, we're going to be talking about a lot of different ways to navigate throughout the magazine experience, but this is the very first way that you can do that. I typically see younger kids navigating throughout magazines this way because their eyes are a lot better than mine, for example. So I have a hard time deciphering what these thumbnails are. So I don't typically use this, but you're more than welcome to if you have better vision than I do. You just tap on the individual page here and Libby will jump you right over to that page. But again, I'll be talking about a few different ways to navigate. So what I'm going to do now is tap on the center of the screen to make my menus drop away. And then I'm going to tap, swipe, or click if I'm on a computer to page forward. So that's the second way to navigate throughout the magazine. The third way to navigate throughout a magazine is to use the table of contents. So we can see here, this is listing out all of the articles within the magazine. These are all links. So let's say I want to lighten my hair at home. I would never do that. My mom was very strict about coloring hair, but let's say I'm being defiant here and I want to learn how to lighten my hair. I'll tap on that article. And now I've jumped over to that article. So this comes in handy if you're browsing around the library and you see one specific article you want to read in a magazine and you just want to get right to it instead of flipping through the entirety of the magazine. You can navigate to that table of contents and then just jump over to that article nice and fast. Now, we are looking at what I call the traditional magazine view. And this view is good if you want to read magazines on a larger device like a computer or an iPad Pro. Those are like massive tablets. The text on this screen might be large enough for you to view just fine. But there are two ways to zoom in if you would like to read the article without straining your eyes down here. So the first is going to be if you tap on the center of the screen and you want to zoom manually using the zoom button up in the top right-hand corner. So first you tap on zoom. Your menus here are going to disappear. There we go. And then, Libby, you're being mean to me. There we go. I made them disappear. And now I'm taking my fingers, I'm stretching them out to zoom in, and then I'm pinching them back in to zoom out. So if you wanted to read the article this way, you're more than welcome. We're going to zoom in and we can read there. To be honest, this pinching of zooming in and out, I typically use it for images rather than text. So if I want to zoom in on an image, then I'll use it that way. When I want to read the text of an article, I actually use our second way to read that article, and that's going to be down at the bottom of the screen here. You'll see this little circle with the page inside. This is the article view, and I'm going to show you why this article view is a better alternative to that zoom view. When you tap on that icon, Libby is going to bring up all of the text and the images to that article within this article view. And as you can see, that text is much bigger. The images are still there. I'm not losing any of those by going into this menu. And this text here is customizable. So down in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see the A icon. If you were here for getting started, you'll know that's how we can adjust and customize our reading settings. So we can increase or decrease that font size. And we can also change our lighting. So I'm currently in bright mode, but we do have sepia and then that dark mode available for you as well. Now, just for your awareness, if you have already set your reading settings, you've customized those within the ebook experience, then those settings will carry over into your magazine experience. So you won't have to come in here and actually customize them if you've already done it for ebooks. But if you are just here for magazines, then you can come in with that A icon, adjust your settings, and then tap on save. And those settings will continue to affect your magazines moving forward. So you won't have to keep coming in and changing those. You will be able to have magazines delivered to you with those customizations already in place. So this article view is quite nice. Now, there's a couple more things I want to talk about in the bottom lower left hand. And this is continuing on with the ways to navigate throughout the magazine. So you'll see arrows pointing forward and backward. This is how you can page forward or backward while staying in the article view. So I'm going to tap forward. I hit an ad. There we go. Now I'm looking at the next article without having to leave this view, page forward, and then open that view back up. So that can come in handy. In the center of those arrows pointing forward and backward, you'll see this is the table of contents within the article view. So I'm going to tap on that icon there. And here I can choose an article within the table of contents. I'm going to look at these Dad's Day gifts. And now I have jumped over to that particular article without leaving the article view. So if you want to navigate staying in this article view with that custom text size, you can do that all with the icons in that lower left-hand corner. Now, when you're done reading the articles within the magazine, you can tap on Done here down in the bottom right-hand corner. That's going to take you back to the traditional magazine view. And then you can change your landscape mode. I have it on lock screen here, so let me change that for you. And let me skip over my ads. Here we go. So based on the orientation of your screen, so I'm changing my orientation of the screen. I flip my iPad horizontally, and now I can see our magazine in that horizontal mode. So this isn't a way to customize your magazine experience, but Libby will orient the screen based on the orientation of your device. So I always like to point that out as well. Now, when you're ready to leave the magazine, what you're going to do is tap on the center of the screen, and we're going to tap on back, that back button in the top left-hand corner. And Joe, I'm actually going to answer this live because this is a good question. I was just about to get to it. So Daniel asks, can you print an article from Libby? You cannot print a magazine article here in Libby that breaks the copyright from the publishers of the magazine. But what you can do is you can tap on this little bookmark here. That bookmark will turn gray, letting you know that that page is bookmarked. And then up in the top right-hand corner, those are the multiple bookmark icon that you see. That's going to allow you to, it will show you all of the pages that you've bookmarked within that magazine. So because magazines are always available and you're never going to have to wait on a wait list, instead of printing the article out, a workaround for, referencing a recipe, for example, or maybe a crochet pattern, what you can do is bookmark the page and then just borrow that magazine anytime you want to reference it again. And that way you can go into your bookmarks, tap on the bookmark within that little menu, and it will jump you right over to that page. So really good question, Daniel. Thank you for asking that. Now, again, I'm going to leave this magazine, so I'm going to tap in the center of the screen here, and then I'm going to go up to the back button. And that has taken me over to the shelf. So let's go ahead and reorient ourselves. The first thing I'm going to point out in that navigation bar is the Good Housekeeping the Good Housekeeping Now reading bar. So this reading bar gives you easy access to the very last ebook, audiobook, or magazine that you had open. So anytime you see that, you can just tap on it. It's going to open up your reading material right back to the last spot that you were looking at. I'm going to dismiss this here for now by tapping that X, and let's just go over what we talked about already. So first we went to the library, and that is where we browse. So we had the filters up at the top. That available now filter is a great place to go for magazines. Then we had the guides. The magazine guides is where you're going to see your magazines broken down by topic, like cooking or entertainment. And then you have the curated collections. Those are going to be rotating throughout the year based on, the time of year or just something the library is excited to share with you. Then we went over to the search icon, and that's where we search for a specific magazine. So in this case, I looked for radio times, and then we were able to look at that series information and jump to an older issue. We're now over on the shelf, and your shelf is going to be where you find your loans. So anytime you borrow a magazine, that's going to be living on your shelf until its due date. So here is my Good Housekeeping magazine, and I can see that it is due in 14 days. Now, your shelf is current. You're actively within your lending period. When you're on your shelf, you're seeing the loans that you currently have borrowed in Libby. Right next door, we see the clock. That is the timeline. And this is going to show you all of your history throughout Libby. So we can see I've returned my issue of the New Yorker. I returned it 20 days early. I don't have it on my shelf, but I do have radio times on my shelf. So I want to be clear about the difference here. Your shelf is current. You have those magazines borrowed in Libby right now. Your timeline is your history. So it's going to show you every magazine that you've loaned out, whether it's currently on your shelf or not. We're going to finish off our session today talking about the menu here. So the three little lines with the menu underneath. This is your account settings, if you will. So up at the top of our menu, you'll see this gray box showing up. This is where you're going to find any of your in-app notifications. I currently don't have any notifications, so Libby's just prompting me to manage mine instead. And I'm going to pop in here to show you what that looks like. So up at the top here, we're going to see the 3 ways that you can be notified. And this is, again, a review of stuff we've talked about already in the getting started. But for anyone who hasn't been here, the blue notification line, this is what you're going to be set to by default. This is a push notification. And push notifications appear on your device's screen no matter what app you have open. So that means you could be looking at Libby, but you could also be on Facebook or reading the news. And if a new issue of a magazine is added to your library, then you're going to see that notification appear on your screen just like a text message would. If you'd like to switch that over to a menu badge, you are more than welcome. The menu badge is going to be an in-app notification. And an in-app notification does not appear outside of the Libby app. You'll only see it if you open up Libby. And so if you use Libby every single day, like I do, that might be a good option for you. Otherwise, I would recommend going with that push notification option. And then, of course, you can ignore certain notifications if you are uninterested. For example, I typically have my loan expired notification set to ignore. And the reason that is because I can't take any action after my loan is expired, right? So it doesn't matter if I'm notified about it or not. That library book has gone back to the library. So I don't even worry about being notified about that. But again, it's all up to you about what notifications you'd like to receive. Now, the notification that is relevant to magazines, we've covered a little bit already, is going to be this Notify Me series magazine. So that's the notification that's going to let you know when new issues are added to your library. And here's where you can customize it if you want that push notification, the menu badge, or ignore. It would be a little weird if you set up a notification for your Notify Me and then you ignored it. That's a little bit of work that just would be reverted. So I would stick with those 2 options of the menu badge and the push notification. And we do give you a little example of what those look like here down at the bottom if you want a little refresher as you're in this menu. Now I'm going to go up to the top here and I'm going to tap on back. And we did talk about in our getting started session about adding additional library cards, but just in case you missed that, I want to cover that again. You'll see here I have 2 libraries attached to my Libby account. I have 2 different library cards. These are both demo libraries, of course, for me to train people on. But you can add additional libraries to Libby if you have a library card to that specific library and that library uses Overdrive services. The benefit of adding multiple library cards is that you can compare wait lists. You can also see books that some libraries purchase and other libraries don't. So bigger libraries will have larger collections, smaller libraries will have smaller collections, of course, based on their budget. And so it can be a benefit to add additional library cards. Now, the ability to get multiple library cards varies based on where you live. But for example, here in Ohio, we have access to our city library, our county library, and then our state library. So with our single address, we have 3 library cards that we have access to. And so that could be an option for you as well. You can tap on Manage Cards here to add additional library cards from the same library. So let's say you and another family member or family members want to share a single device and you want to put all of your library cards on that single device. You are welcome to do that. The benefit of that is that you'll all have your own loan limit and hold limit for ebooks and audiobooks. So this can be especially nice for kids. I mentioned this in getting started. When I was a little kid, all three of my siblings and I were avid readers, and blood would be shed if my mom made us share 10 loans. So can be really handy for kids who are competitive and jealous. Lastly, we will talk about help and support. So 2 things I want to talk about in here. The first is going to be down under settings. This is where you can find some accessibility features. You can also manage your notifications here, change your download rules if you're worried about space on your device, and then you can customize your navigation. I always point this out because when you're a new user, sometimes navigating within this navigation bar can be tricky because we, by default, have those labels turned off. So you'll just see the magnifying glass, the library building, the little 3 lines, the stack of books, and the clock. If you come here into settings and turn those labels on, then it will be a little bit easier to navigate when you're just getting used to the Libby app. Now, I have a short video here on how to do that in the PDF that you'll receive. So don't worry if you forget how to do that. You can follow that video to learn how again. I'm going to come back up to the top and tap on back. I'm going to do that one more time. I'm going to tap back again to go to the main Libby menu. And we'll finish off by talking about getting help and support. So I'm going to tap on get some help. And up here at the top, we can ask Libby a question. So I'm saying ask Libby because you're asking the computer. Libby, the computer, is going to be searching for an article on our help site. So let's say we finished our magazine early. We just wanted to read one article and then send it back to the library. Let's learn how to return a magazine. I'm going to type in return and then tap on search. And Libby's pulled 2 articles that are relevant to that keyword. Returning articles is what I'm looking for. So let's tap on that. And here Libby lets me know that the magazine will actually return on its due date. But if I wanted to return it early, I can use these steps here to do that. Now, let's say you had a more complicated question, or maybe you need some troubleshooting steps. That's when you can come down to ask our support team. And this is going to connect you with real life people. These are living and breathing friends of ours. They are very friendly folks, I promise. Occasionally, I help our technical support team if we've got a lot of questions coming in. And so maybe I'll answer your question. But here you can say you have a problem, a question, or an idea, and this will be all done via email. So double check your email address to make sure that when we email you back, it gets to you instead of bounces back to us. And they answer typically within 24 hours. Again, that depends on how busy we get, but usually it's within 24 hours. And they will get you back up and running if you need troubleshooting steps or answer any questions that you have as well. But that wraps up our demonstration portion. I'm going to hand things back over to Joe, and he's going to get us into some next steps.
Thanks, Marissa. I am excited to get us into our next steps here. Of course, remember, you can ask us anything, send those questions through the Q&A. I often forget to mention it, but you can also ask questions anonymously if that makes you more comfortable. And we are now going to head into our mini quiz. So I'd like to test what you just learned with Marissa, and then we'll open it up to Q&A after we wrap up that quiz. The answers that you provide to these questions are, I don't know why that started playing on me. The answers that you provide to these questions are completely anonymous, so give it your best shot. If you don't know, feel free to guess, or there is an unsure option available. Question will appear automatically on your screen once I hit launch. What two icons in the navigation bar can you tap to find a magazine to borrow? So do we go to the magnifying glass, library, Libby menu, stack of books, or clock? We're looking for a new magazine to borrow. Where are we going? And I will close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's just dive into this video. We can start off on our library building where we go when we're browsing for ebooks and audiobooks. Same thing for magazines. We could tap into available now, or your library has a magazine guide created for you, nice and convenient, and they're even separated out by categories. The other option is you can use the magnifying glass. You can type in the title of that magazine and hit search, and you'll find options that way as well. I also always love reading HGTV magazine. So, honestly, answer to this one is the same as when you're looking for your ebooks. All right. For question number 2, which of the following is not one of the ways you can customize your reading settings in the article view? So select all that apply here. You can change the text scale or the size of the text, the lighting or the background color of the page, or landscape mode, the orientation of the screen. And I'll close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So when Marissa finally got us into a magazine, she had showed us a lot of the great ways that we can navigate around, that we could zoom in and out using our fingers, or we have that amazing article view, probably my favorite update to magazines in Libby. If you hit that little circle at the bottom of the screen, you are brought into kind of like a clean text display of the article. Just like with your ebook, that you can adjust the different settings and how things appear, you can do the same thing in the article view. So if we tap on that A for appearance, we can change that text scale, make the font size as large or as small as you need, and then you can change the lighting. So just like you saw within your ebooks. Now, if you've already customized your ebook appearance, that will actually carry over into the article view for the magazine. You, of course, can come in and adjust as you see fit. But if you've got that kind of perfect for you display for your books, that will also carry over into the article view. You can kind of adjust your orientation as far as which way you're holding your device, and the book will follow, but that only happens outside of the article view. All right, let's hop into question 3. When you borrow a magazine, Libby will prompt you to create a Notify Me tag. What does that tag do? It notifies you when it's your turn on a magazine's waitlist. It provides alerts for when new issues of the magazines that you've added to that tag are available, or it recommends new magazines to borrow based off of your interests. And I'll close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so that Notify Me tag will provide you an alert when a new issue of a magazine has been added into your library. So that's the correct answer. It's going to let you know, hey, there's a new issue of HGTV magazine. Go and read it. There's a new Good Housekeeping. Whatever you've added into that tag, it will alert you when that new issue becomes available. So when you borrow a magazine for the very first time, you will be prompted or asked if you'd like to add it to your Notify Me tag to be alerted when new issues become available. So, since this was our first time on the screen here borrowing New Scientist, Libby asked if we'd like to add that to our list to be notified. And our final question before we open up the floor for live Q&A. What are the 3 notification options you can set your Notify Me smart tag to? So select all that apply. You can have it be a push notification, a menu badge notification, which, sorry, I spelled that wrong. You can ignore it, or you can have Libby text you. I see Marissa laughing at me. It's a great, it's a great typo. And I'll close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. So the very first time you place a hold on a book in Libby, Libby is going to bring up your notification settings. And at that point, she'll ask you how you want to be alerted about different things. If you kind of skipped through that, or if you find that a certain style of notification isn't working for you, you can always adjust those notification settings. And you do that by going to the menu and then up at the top, tapping Manage Notifications. First, you can have a push notification appears on your device's screen similar to a text. Then there's the menu badge, which appears in-app only. And then last is ignore. If you scroll down this list, you'll find that Notify Me series. That's where your magazines are at, and you can decide how you want to be alerted. So the kind of trick answer here is text message. Those push notifications show up on your screen like a text message because they'll be on your lock screen. They'll pop up at the top when you're in different apps, like texts do, but there is not an option to have Libby text you. So, as with a lot of things when you're customizing in Libby, you'll kind of find what works best for you. Just as that reminder, if there is something you never want to miss out on, like a hold being ready to borrow, we recommend push notification. If you're in Libby every day, menu badge might be the route for you. And with that, we will now wrap up our mini quiz. If you've got any questions for Marissa and I, whether it's from some of the things we covered earlier this week, things you've discovered along the way, or anything from our magazine session today, please feel free to put those in the Q&A, and we'll take some time now to answer those and demo live on screen. I see Marissa's typing an answer, and once she's done, she'll reconnect her iPad.
All right, thank you, Joe. Sorry, I
No
had a
worries.
really good question about Libby syncing across multiple devices. So I was getting that answered, but let me share my screen and then I'll actually cover that question here. There we go. So Barb asked, Libby shows different info on my phone and tablet. How do I sync? So there's a couple different answers to this. The first is just checking to make sure that Libby is syncing correctly. What you can do is go to the shelf. That's going to be your stack of books. And then up in the top right-hand corner of your shelf, you'll tap on Actions and then Synchronize Shelf. And Libby's gonna think here for a second and then sync your shelves across all of your devices. You shouldn't have to do this very often. Honestly, I've never had to do it, but occasionally if your shelves aren't syncing up, you can do it that way. The other the caveat to that is you have to make sure that the same library cards are signed in to both of your devices. And when you do sign into that second device, you're using a setup code. And so if you go down to Menu and then Settings, you will see this copy to another device code on your device that is already signed in. So what I would suggest is if your information is not syncing after you do that synchronize button that I just showed you, sign out on one of your devices and then sign back in using this copy to another device code. And that will make sure all of your tags, your loans, your holds, all of that information is synced over to your second device. And in the text version of my answer, I've included a help article specific to that question. So good question. How do I sign out? So that's also going to be in your menu settings. So you go to menu, get some help, and then you'll see this, how do I sign out, reset everything. Only do that on your on one device. Don't do that on both devices. So do it on either your phone or your tablet, and then use the copy from my other device code on the device that you did not sign out on to sync your devices. Okay, so we got another question. Where does my wish list show up on Libby? So if you have moved over from the Overdrive app to Libby, Libby will sync your wish list into a tag. So to find your tags, you'll go to shelf, and then up at the top of your shelf, you'll see your tags, and it will have your wish list within your tags. Now, a difference between the Overdrive app and the Libby app is that in Libby, you can have multiple tags. So you could take your single wish list and you could break that down further. Maybe you wanted that wish list broken down by ebooks versus audiobooks, or maybe you want to break it down by genre. You could do, mystery and romance and all of that. So you can have multiple tags in Libby. You're not limited to just that one wish list.
Of course, there's also a help article that I will add to this as well in the answered section that will show you, just in case you missed, that there will be a button usually that pops up that says sync wish list when Libby notices that you're coming from Overdrive. There are some helpful steps just in case you missed that and you'd like to recreate it as a tag.
All right, Susan asks, can you copy to another device one iPad from two separate devices? So separate phone devices, you and your partner or you and your kids? No, you can't. So you would have to have both you and your husband's library cards on your phone and your tablet. You can't have a separate account and then also a shared account. So you would only use that sync to another device for both of your cards if you want both library cards on both phones and the tablet. Good question, Susan.
Lots of great questions coming in today. So excited to see it. I wanted to mention just before we get too far into our Q&A, like I said at the top, Libby is built based off of feedback. So if you are feeling that there is a feature missing or that you'd like to see in Libby, all you need to do is go to the menu in the navigation bar, and then under Help and Support, tap on Get Some Help, and then tap on the suggestion box under Common Solutions. From there, you can type out any and all questions you might have, or not questions, I'm sorry, any and all suggestions you might have about Libby. So this list is kind of built up over time. If you are looking for something, it's very likely other people are looking for it as well. So it would be a great benefit to put in that suggested request there. The list kind of works based off of, I'll say priority, I guess. If a lot of people have requested it, it works its way up the list. So add your name to the list of voices to be heard. How do you see just the available now items from a tag list? I have no problem taking this one, Marissa, if you can just get me back to the shelf. So we'll go to our shelf and then we'll go into our tags. And then let's just hop into our to be read list. Thank you. So I know in the Overdrive wish list, you can kind of filter out what is available now versus what has a wait list on it. There is no specific way to separate those out, but honestly, in Libby, it's really easy visually. If you see along the side here, these different library card icons, you'll see these throughout the entire app. But especially in a tag list like your wish list, if the library card has a plus next to it, that means you can borrow it right now. There is no wait list. The other option here is that this might have a small clock instead of a plus button. That means there is a wait list for it. The other kind of symbol you might see down here, there is no library card, just this gray box with two dashes in it, means that your library does not own the title. So in this case, we've tagged from a different library or the book is no longer available at the digital library. So while you can't necessarily filter out what's not available, you can still easily, as you scroll through, go, oh, this is ready to borrow right now. If you tap on that button, if you tap on that library card, that menu will pop up and you'll even be able to borrow it right from the library. So we can see here one of one copy available. If I tap on that library card again, it will take me to the borrow screen. So functions a little differently than what you might be used to from Overdrive, but I think still a nice experience.
Sorry, I was trying to
You
find
were
a book
trying to
that
find
had
one.
a hold. There we go. Here's that calendar. So I wanted to make sure you could see that calendar means currently on a wait list. Plus sign means available now.
Mhm.
Susan wanted some clarification. So we should reset our phones so we link to that iPad. Yeah, so if you want both you and your husband's library cards on all of your devices, what I would do is reset your phones and then use the setup code from your iPad to sign back in to your phones. And that will have both your phones and your iPad all synced up together.
Excellent questions, everyone. Well, we still have a few minutes left together today. So if you're typing a question, please feel free to still send it through. We want to make sure we get all of your questions answered. Marissa, anything that you think we should mention before we wrap up today in Libby?
No, I think we just about covered it. All the good questions coming in have kind of covered everything that I would typically say.
Right?
I guess
Anything we might throw out there?
it is relevant, I guess, to talk about download settings
Hmm.
because I did talk about how magazines are pretty image heavy, and so they have a large file size.
Hmm.
So in Libby, when you're on Wi-Fi, by default, Libby will download all of your borrowed materials. So that is the default setting on Libby. You have to be on Wi-Fi, and then Libby is going to download your ebooks, audiobooks, and magazines. Now, if you come up to actions and then change download rules, this is going to be a way that you can customize what Libby downloads. So let's say you are someone who is really conscious about how much space you have left on your phone. You could choose to download nothing instead, and that will mean you have to be on Wi-Fi or use cellular data to be able to read or listen to your book. But it's not going to download to your device, so you're not taking up any space. You can also choose to download titles under a certain size. So we have a couple different options here. Magazines are going to fall into that 300 megabyte because, again, image heavy. Ebooks are typically within these first three, and then audiobooks fall within the last three. So if you're someone who's like, oh, I could download something that's 50 megabytes, but not something that's 200 megabytes, then you can set a specific size to allow Libby to download, and she won't download the rest. The other thing you can change as well is if you download only on Wi-Fi. So I have unlimited data on my cell phone family plan. And so I don't have to worry about my data being all used up by downloading titles. So I actually have this turned off on my device. And that way, if I'm, out and about and I want to download a book to my phone so I can have it for offline use, I don't have to be on Wi-Fi to do it. So there are a few different ways that you can customize those download settings depending on your needs. I think
Definitely.
that is probably the
That
last thing that I'll finish off with, Joe.
Yeah, that probably hits it. Will you go back into the shelf though, just so we could show them if they tap on the library card with the plus sign on the shelf, that they can also just adjust download settings there as well. So if you tap on that library card, that will allow you to remove a download. So maybe you don't want that large magazine taking up space. You only want to read it when you're on Wi-Fi. You'll see that cloud with the down arrow. If you see that first instead, maybe you turn off downloads automatically and you just want to download something for when you're going to be offline completely. Maybe you're about to go on a plane and you go, okay, well, now I need this on my phone. If you tap that symbol, it will then start to download instead. So just some last things to keep in mind off of that final tip. Well, thank you everyone so much for joining us this week for our Learning Libby with the Experts webinar series and for taking the time out of your day today to watch us talk about magazines. We appreciate your thoughtful questions and your participation in our mini quiz, and we are so excited to have gotten to spend this time with you today. Remember, you'll get an email tomorrow morning from Zoom that includes a link to the full recording of today's presentation. I will also include links to Monday and Wednesday's live demo webinar presentation recordings, as well as the 3 PDFs that we have created that include links to help articles and short video clips for everything we've covered in these 3 different sessions. With all of that said, thank you all so much for joining us today and happy
Happy
reading.
reading.